We're all searching for it, or people. The ones you can call when you're at the end of your rope. The ones you ask for advice in a difficult stage or deciding on which jeans to buy. The ones who you share dreams and hopes with, who get you to the gym and love your kids like their own. Motherhood was never meant to be a solitary role, and now it doesn't need to be. Here we discuss everything from our favorite kidisms to mental wellness to our best mom hacks and more. Mamas are world changers, and it's time to stop bearing that responsibility alone. So whether you're driving carpool, rocking a sleeping baby, or doing dishes, we're here for you. Welcome to the village. Welcome to episode 5 of the Village podcast. I'm your host, Missy Allred. Thank you so much for being here. I am just going to apologize in advance. My voice sounds a little funny today. I have had a cold and was hoping it would be gone by now and waited until the last minute to record this. And it still is a little funky. I'm still a little stuffy and my voice is gone. So bear with me. But today I thought it would be fun to talk about love languages for your kids as it's Valentine's Day next week. So I thought it would be kind of fun going into that. So if you haven't heard of the love languages, there are 5 of them: quality time, words of affirmation, gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. And we all kind of gravitate to one or two of them. We feel love from each of them, but one or two of them especially will be the way that we feel the most loved, and often the way that we naturally show love to other people. And so we can use this with our spouses, we can use this even with ourselves, but I really want to talk about with your kids, and especially with your young kids. If you look up kids and the love languages, most everything will say to really start looking around 9-ish, but I know most of you have kids that are younger than that. So this will be applicable to all, but I'm specifically going to be talking about younger kids because it's going to look a little bit different in how we notice them and in how we show love to those younger kids. And with all of this, we can absolutely be showing each of these love languages to each of our kids. I think we kind of just naturally do that because, like I said, we all feel love from all of them, but we will probably gravitate to our own love language. So through this, if you aren't sure about your own love language, you can absolutely go take the quiz. It's super helpful, but you'll probably kind of get a feel for the way you probably show love the most, which is probably your love language. Also, with all of this, I do not want this to be one more thing on your to-do list of, oh, I need to be figuring out my kids' love languages and I'm not doing it enough. Please do not let this be what this is. It really is like just for fun and trying to help you understand your kids better, not to be an extra burden on you. So with that being said, we are going to jump in. Starting with quality time. So some signs to look for if quality time is your child's love language. They will probably ask to play with you often, or can you come read this book with me, or can we play this game, or something along those lines. They may follow you around wherever you go and even may just want to play in the same room with you. They may not actually be playing with you, but like as long as you're in the same room, they're happy and they can kind of do their own thing. Some ways to show love to these quality time kids. The biggest thing is make sure that the time you are spending with them is distraction free. Put your phone down, try to set aside your to-do list and the next thing you need to get to and just be with them and enjoy it and be focused completely on them. Another thing is to say yes as much as you can. I know sometimes other things have to come first. If you're in the middle of dinner and there's things on the stove, probably not the time. But as much as you can, if you can say, yes, I would love to play this game with you. I have 5 minutes and then I need to go back to do my thing instead of the other way. I know a lot of times I will tell my kids, oh, once I'm done with this, then I would love to come do that with you. But usually by the time I get to it, I've either forgotten or they are off on their other thing and I miss that time with them. So saying yes when possible and as quickly as possible. Another thing is to just carve out the time. Even 5 minutes is going to make a big difference for these quality time kids. Again, if it's focused, distraction free time, 5 minutes will make a world of difference for them. And it can really be anything. It can be playing games or building Legos or running outside with them, kicking a ball around in the yard, or reading a story. But those 5 minutes or whatever time you can carve out is going to make a difference for these kids. And finally, invite them into your world as much as you can. When you're making dinner, can they be there with you? Can they sit and help you? Is there something that they can contribute to, or even just stand and watch? Can they run to the grocery store with you? Some of my favorite things to do with my kids actually are like if I need to run a quick errand and if I can only take one of them, it makes a big difference. But it doesn't just have to be doing what they want to do, but they are going to benefit and thrive off of the time with you no matter what it is. So invite them into your world. All right, moving on to words of affirmation. Some signs that your child might be a words of affirmation love language is they might tell you that they love you often. They may seek or ask for attention, like, hey, look at me, look at what I'm doing. If they do that often, that might be a really good indication that they want some validation or someone to tell them they're doing a good job. Another thing to notice is if they're extra sensitive to criticism or anger. To these kids, words matter a lot, and the way that you say the words matters a lot. So if they're extra sensitive, it's probably a really good sign that words of affirmation is a way that they feel loved. And with all of these love languages, kind of on the other hand, they may feel loved the most this way, but it's also the way they can be the most hurt. And so as you naturally have interactions with your kids and you may react in different ways, notice what lights them up and what maybe shuts them down. And you will probably figure out what their love language is. So with words of affirmation, like I said, if they're extra sensitive to what you're saying or how you're saying it, it's probably a good indication. So ways to show love for words of affirmation kids is to just say I love you often, and then to notice and praise the good that they do. Really take the time and attention to notice what they are doing instead of what they aren't doing. And I think this goes with all kids in general. I mean, really all people in general, right? We all want to be noticed for the good that we do instead of just the mistakes that we make, because most of us are very aware of those. So especially with these kids, notice and praise the good that they do, and watch your tone on criticism and the wording. One thing I like to do, I did this with my girls when I taught dance for years, is anytime I would have a constructive criticism, right? Because we're wanting our kids to do better. When I taught dance, I wanted these girls to improve, but I was always careful to make sure that I gave them 2 things they did well before I gave the one constructive criticism. And I had actually totally forgotten about that until I was outlining this episode, and I want to go implement that with my kids too. So 2 to 1 on things they did well and criticisms. And then affirmations may be especially helpful for these kids And as you do affirmations with them, focus on who they are, not what they are. And so like some affirmations that I love with my kids are I work hard, I keep trying, I can do hard things. And it's been really fun. I've been focusing in on affirmations a little bit more, especially with one of my one of my boys who has been struggling in a couple things. And so before we go do this thing, we run through a list of affirmations that I have for him. And it was so funny because just tonight actually we tried out something new and he was like, "Mom, I can do hard things." And I was like, "Yes, you can." And so our kids notice these things and they really sink in. So those might be especially helpful for these words of affirmations. All right, number 3 is gifts. Signs that your kid might be a gift love language is they might bring you little things. So whether that's drawings they've done or Lego creations or Play-Doh creations or dandelions they picked from the front yard, they will probably be their own little gift givers. Another thing to look for is if surprises are a really big deal or they get really excited at holidays with gifts or little extra things that you do, that's another indication that they might be a gift giver. If they have a hard time letting go of their things, whether that's as you're trying to make room for new Christmas presents and you're trying to get rid of old things, or throwing away drawings because they've piled up. I definitely have one of those that he's very sensitive. He loves his things and has such a hard time deciding what to get rid of because they're all special to him. If they get very attached, that's a good indication that gifts might be one of their love languages. A few ways to show love to these gift givers, and I tried to think of things too that weren't just stuff, because I feel like sometimes with this love language in particular, it just feels like stuff. And that's a trigger for my nervous system. If you remember back to episodes 2 and 3, one of my biggest ways I get overstimulated is by clutter. And so I know for me, I need to be really careful of these gifts because I don't want just stuff and I don't want it to just end up in a pile that they never touch, right? So, a few things that you can do that's not just random stuff is to just make everyday things a big deal. If they need new socks, have fun with it. Have them wrap them up. Like, look what I got you. How fun is that? You got new socks. A gift giver is going to be excited by that. Or if you have like a special meal that you're making, whether that's for a birthday or just because you wanted something fun, like make it a big deal. Like, oh, we get this special dinner tonight. How cool is this? Or a special treat or something like that. Just make those little everyday things a bigger deal. Have a special spot for their special little things. I have had these picture frames that have been sitting, they've been sitting in my room waiting to be hung up for a year now, and I really need to. But they are these really cool picture frames that can open and close while they're hung on the wall, and you put your kids' artwork in there, and they're pretty deep, and so they have room to store the artwork too. That's like a special little thing that you could have for your kids' artwork, or if you have like a shelf for their Lego creations or whatever it is, like have this special spot for their special gifts. Another way to kind of make things a big deal is send them on a treasure hunt. Again, if you get new socks, I got you something new. Let's go find it. Here's this treasure hunt. Just make it a big deal. And then copy what they're bringing you. If they bring you flowers a lot, bring them flowers. Or if they're drawing you little pictures, maybe take the time to draw them a little picture. All right, moving on. Number 4 is acts of service. So some signs that your child may be in acts of service is that they ask for help for things that they are fully capable of doing on their own. I know I have one of these because I can't put my socks on. I can't walk out of the room. And it's so hard to not be frustrated by that. But when I realize that, oh, he probably is an acts of service, love language kid, it changed everything. And I am more patient. Still working on it. But if they're asking for help, that's a really big indication, especially at this young age, that they're acts of service. Another thing to watch for here is they might be extra excited when you notice that they helped with something. So this same kid that asks for help, if I tell him, thank you so much for helping me with this. Oh my goodness, you would have thought it was Christmas morning. He lights up. As they get older, these are the kids that are going to kind of go out of their way to see a need and help. But as they're younger, it's going to look a little bit different. So some things that you can do to show your love through acts of service is doing tasks with them. And I know there is such a fine line here of not doing it for them, especially with these young kids. But if you can do things with them, so sitting with them, I've noticed with my kids, if I can sit, even if I don't touch a toy, but if I can sit there with them while they clean up their toys and kind of directive, okay, let's pick up the blocks. Get all the blocks. All right, now let's work on the books. And just doing that with them makes a really big difference where they are still learning to be independent and capable. And really, that is an act of service to them. They may not see that right now, but teaching them how makes a difference. And sometimes that's what our kids need. If we're overwhelmed by toys, our kids are most definitely overwhelmed by toys. And in our minds, it's a simple task to, oh, go put all the toys away where they go. Like, you know where they go, you got them out. But we don't usually take the time to sit and teach them how to clean up. All right, let's put this here. Let's get all of this together. And so if we can sit there and teach them how to do the thing, that will help a lot. Or walking them through, all right, let's get your right leg in your pants. All right, now your left leg. Okay, now let's stand up. It seems so silly, but for these kids, that's what they need. Like it almost goes back to quality time, and really so many things that you do could be put in multiple categories. But with these acts of service kids, spending time with them as they're doing tasks is going to be the thing that makes a difference. Another thing you can do is just surprising them sometimes with something done for them. Whether that's, hey, I cleaned up all your toys today, or I made your bed for you, or I got your clothes all picked out, or I mean, there's a million things you could do, but just every once in a while, just surprise them and do it for them. Even something as simple as, hey, I picked out this special book for us to read together. That will make a difference. All right, last one is physical touch. So some signs that your child might be a physical touch love language is they're clingy. They're touchy, or they follow you around. They're always sitting and climbing on you. They probably feel love from physical touch. They might also just give lots of hugs and kisses to other people, or want to always give high fives or something like that. They're probably physical touch. So some ways you can show love through physical touch is to just sit near each other. Instead of eating in the kitchen while you finish up dishes or finish the next thing you're doing, go and sit by them. Another thing you could do is to just start with a hug when they are having big emotions, when they're having a meltdown. And this actually goes back to nervous system regulation, and we will talk more about that, of some ways you can help your kids calm down. But that is a really, really big one that I use daily in my house, is to go give them a hug first. And that will help them calm down so that they are now in a rational place where you can talk to them better. But it's that physical touch piece too, where they are feeling love, they're feeling safety. You can give high fives or Knuckles. You can snuggle during movies or books. Be intentional about seeing that out. Like, hey, come sit by me. Like, let's snuggle. You can give back rubs. You can have games and activities that are a little bit more hands-on. So you could do piggyback rides or airplane where they're on your feet, or play patty cake, or do this little piggy with their toes, or make up handshakes together. You can do rough and tumble, play tag, do twister. There's so many things you can do here. Physical touch, I feel like, is the easiest one to implement, but sometimes a little bit harder for stay-at-home moms who get touched out. But I think reframing some of these things that annoy us to, okay, what is my child trying to tell me? Is he trying to communicate that, Mom, this is how I feel loved, or I'm needing a little bit more love, helps me be a little bit more patient with my kids, and what looks like acting out is really them trying to communicate with me and not having the words. So hopefully you're starting to see, oh, okay, my kid is kind of fitting in this category. I'm seeing a little bit of this. Like I said at the beginning, we have all five. We feel love from all five, but there will probably be one or two that stand out. And again, really, they're not going to fully gravitate towards one or two until they're a little bit older, but you'll probably start to see it earlier than they say 9. So hopefully this was helpful. And as you're going into Valentine's Day, you can show your kids a little bit more love in the way that they feel love the most. And it doesn't have to be anything excessive. Hopefully that's what you've seen, is it's really just small everyday things. And the biggest thing behind this, I think, is just being intentional. Because so many of these are things you can do throughout your day that don't take any more time, or if they do, it's only a few more minutes, but it's the intention and the focus behind it. Last thing for this episode is my magic in the mundane moment, and it actually happened today where I kind of had a very emotional day and broke down a little bit. My kids saw me crying, and I got my middle down for a nap, and my baby was way off on naps today. And so I had my oldest and my youngest, and my oldest came up to me and was like, Mom, let's snuggle on your bed. I was like, let's do that. That sounds amazing. And so he snuggled me on my bed while we looked at pictures. His birthday's coming up, and so we were looking at pictures of him from when he was a baby. And then my baby came and snuggled with us and was actually snuggling, which you've probably heard me talk about. She is not a snuggler at all. So that was such a gift. Like, she must have known that that's what I needed. And so I had my first baby and my actual baby snuggling with me for like an hour and a half today. And it was like a balm to my heart. Seriously, it totally turned my day around. It really was magic, and that's why we have them. So be thinking about your magic in the mundane, because they are always there, and if we see them, I just think life is so much more fun. Very last thing is, if you're listening to this as it comes out tomorrow, the doors for the reset close for this round, and I'm not sure the next time I'm opening them. They eventually will, but I'm not sure when. So this is my signature program that helps you step into your calm mom era. If you are constantly overstimulated or get angry quickly and have a difficult time coming out of it, and then later wonder why you reacted the way you did, this will be so helpful for you, because not only do we go through how to calm yourself down, come back to a rational stage where you can be the calm, loving, patient mom that you already are, but sometimes she gets a little hidden. We also talk about how to help your kids get back to a calm place too. And we do it in a way where you are figuring out what works for you and your kids. I'll show you what you need to do to figure that out for yourself. And we're going to have lots of practice. This isn't just here's a bunch of information, but we practice and you will leave with habits. It's a 1-month program, and it has what took me 4 years of parenting and a psychology degree to learn. And I don't want you to have to wait that long to learn it. So if you're interested, the link is in the show notes, or you can message me on Instagram. I'm at the Missy Allred. Or if you want more information and details, I would love to chat with you. Thanks so much for listening today. I'll talk to you next week.
Thanks for joining me on this week's episode. I would love to hear your thoughts on it, so message me on Instagram at the Missy Allred. There is always room in our village, so if you enjoyed it, will you please send it to a friend or leave a rating and review? Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next episode. Thank you for being here. I'll talk to you next week.